having it to see and listen to remember and accept, I vow to taste the truth of the Tathagata's words. Good evening, everyone. So, we find ourselves in the midst of a great global challenge. And it's very hard for us, I think, to comprehend that this microscopic, tiny thing that we can't even see could invade our bodies and cause such chaos and catastrophe and be deadly to many people. Very hard to imagine such a thing. We typically think of invasions as great armies coming forward with artillery and marching down the street, but this is a tiny microbe that possibly even in this room some of us are carrying. They tell us that there's a 2 to 3 week period in which we ourselves have no symptoms and yet we are capable of infecting others. So we can't imagine such a thing. And we can't imagine the predictions even in this country that if we don't really take care of this appropriately, that within a month we might have 70,000 to 150,000 people infected by this virus. It sounds so dire. I mean, we just incomprehensible. But it is quite potent and has great strength and power that, to me, is very hard to understand. Very hard to imagine that this tiny thing could so take us down, not just take down one's own body, but take down the global economy. It's pretty humbling, to say the least, and maybe a great lesson for all of us. You know, globalization is not that old, not particularly old. We were only talking about it 20 years ago. Maybe 25, but not, well, maybe 30. It's maybe 30 years ago, which is not very long. Globalization, the idea, just the word globalization came up that recently. And so we turned into this drive of global connections and movements of people all over this globe. And so now we discovered that the borders are closing. Various countries, Italy has closed their borders, and Switzerland might close its borders because it is heavily infected, and France might close theirs, and all of these borders may close. And we are now tonight, or maybe by Friday, no longer allowing people from Europe to come into the country. I mean, we don't allow people from China, and now Europe. And so this is very something we have never seen before. We have never seen such a thing. But I was wondering how, with this kind of connections, you know, the way a virus makes connections, I was wondering how that would be if awakening, enlightenment did the same thing. What if, you know, we carry enlightenment and then other people are affected by that enlightenment, and then in a month 150,000 people in the United States realize enlightenment. Imagine such a thing. And then goes from there, and it doubles and doubles. And actually that is also how it works. Not quite as profoundly or as quickly, but it certainly has that capacity. But that's the first koan, the koan mu, that emptiness, all the koan of emptiness, the realization of emptiness. But the second koan is we are subject to causality, which means while we may realize enlightenment, nevertheless, in this relative world of causality, we are affected by what is around us. And so we have the potential to have that virus enter us. I mean, the Buddha died from eating pork, tainted pork, trichinosis. He went out to lunch. Somebody invited him out to lunch one afternoon, and he was served pork that was tainted, and he died a couple of days later from trichinosis, from eating tainted meat. And when I first heard that story when I first came into practice, I was very taken by that. I thought, how could somebody who was in great enlightenment, the Buddha had great enlightenment, how could he just die of trichinosis? How could that be? I mean, couldn't he rise above that? Couldn't he heal himself? I struggled with that for a long time, because I do believe we are capable of healing ourselves. And so it was something I deeply wrestled with in Buddhism. But the Buddha was also an old man. He was about 82, which is not very old because I'll be 80 soon, so it's not very old particularly, but he was subjected to causality, as we all are. We have what we chanted tonight, old age, sickness, old age, and death. And then also no extinction of it. So on the one hand, in our absolute sense, we are completely healed in Buddha nature, in Buddha light, in awakening. And on the other hand, in this human world, we are subject to such things. And although I like to live thinking that I am immortal, as I know some others might feel the same way, that why not live as though one is immortal? We also know, on the other hand, that that is probably not the case. This life is temporary, and it's one of the deep principles of Buddhism, one of the deep teachings in Buddhism, that everything is temporary. This world is temporary. Our experience here is temporary. Our appearance on this earth is temporary. And we are subject to causality. Sickness, old age, and death. And in the midst of that, we also can heal. And the body heals itself. Because most of the people who will get this virus will most likely go past it, will most likely be okay. They will recover. But a fair amount will not. So it's a great challenge we have, a great challenge. But while we are recognizing the level of contamination in which we walk and breathe and associate with one another, at the same time, we really have to remember our awakening in that and see one another in the Buddha light. See one another as Buddha nature. Because if we get that virus and that is going to be our demise, let us realize enlightenment before we die. Let us know that that is our true selves, that we completed the cause of our being here, the cause of our practice. Let us realize that wholly and die in a fulfilled way. Death is one of the great passageways that we will all go through. It takes great courage to die well. And how exceptional to know that we completed our true selves in this lifetime, that we saw the totality of our Buddha nature, which we all are. So, like that contamination of the virus, I really like to think that enlightenment just spreads out and contaminates us all. Mm. But we do have to care. We are certainly wrestling with whether we remain open, although we are remaining open. The schools, the colleges are remaining open. St. Martin's, Evergreen, South Puget Sound are all staying open so far. And so we will stay open. And I think that even if we close, we will stay open early in the morning for Zazen early in the morning for those who want to come then. And rather than gathering crowds more in the evening or on Saturday, we will stay open in the mornings. And so it's a wait and see how that happens and how that comes about. I hope that when you come in, you wash your hands as soon as you do. We're not able to get Purell, so we don't have that to use on your hands. I mean, it's $400 a bottle now on Amazon. And so, but I did get hold of some alcohol, but I didn't get hold of some aloe vera, and we will mix up a purifying ingredient for you to use next time. Please use it. And the point in this about taking care of ourselves, washing our hands, not touching our faces, is for the sake of other people. So that we who might be strong don't go home and give it to our grandmothers or to unsuspecting people in the store or on the street, that we may carry it ourselves without any symptoms, not knowing, and then transport it to somebody who is a bit infirm. And so that is what we do. We take care of ourselves, but we are also doing that for one another. And so please take great care. That is also the issue of the second koan, the question of causality. We take care of those things. We don't, because we are all awakened, doesn't mean that we don't do those things. Of course we do those things. So please take great care and be mindful then of not touching one's face, and if you have to cough, that you cough into your sleeve, or you use a handkerchief or a tissue to cover your mouth, please, or sneeze. Wherever you go, please do that. But I also noticed that if anybody coughs, everybody's alert now, right? If you go in the supermarket and somebody coughs, everybody runs away from that person. So everyone's aware. And it's kind of incredible to have everybody be sort of aware of one another. It's mostly we go around a bit blindly, just sort of bumping carts and shushing people out of the way in the store. But people are being mindful, and that is very, very fine. So please keep good practice in that. So maybe you have some questions. I don't have lots to say about this. We are all concerned. There's a great deal of fear. I went downtown Olympia today and I was stunned by the ghostly feeling of the town. Hardly any traffic. Lots of parking in the library parking lot. Parking at the post office, nearly empty. It was a very ghostly feeling. I stopped at a little market on the way back, and the man said hardly anybody has come into the market all day. So suddenly this day, knowing that the virus has made its way south to JBLM and now into Thurston County, people are starting to get a little bit more frightened and staying away. So it's a very ghostly feeling. So we do our best and take care of one another. So maybe you have some questions or thoughts or anything to say about anything. And we're all in this together. You know, this is one of the great things, is that we discover that we're all in this together. It doesn't matter, you know, what your religion or your size or your gender or your sexual, you know, decision or any, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what country you're from. So that's kind of something that we are all in this together. That's truly global. That's a global experience. No discrimination in this. Okay. All take good care of yourselves, please. Everybody, take care of your families and those with whom you interact. Elbow is the thing to say hello. But out there today, many people just put their hand out. We'll do this, let's do this. So remember that, either fist bump or elbow. It's kind of fun to do the elbow. It's you don't quite get the same intimate feeling when you shake somebody's hand. You shake somebody's hand and you know something about them when you do that. You realize something about them, about how tightly they hold your hand, or how they just sort of use just the tips of their fingers to touch your hand, or they just sort of don't, you know, put much strength in it. That all says something. I don't know what it means. It says something, but the elbow is kind of okay too. It's kind of fun. We smile at one another better with the elbow, I think. It's a little bit game, so. So anyway, so do your best, please, everybody. If we decide to close, we will certainly put it on the website, and we will let people know that way. And we'll send out a newsletter. It will go out in a newsletter immediately, but for the time being, I think we are okay. I'm going to follow the schools. I'm going to follow Evergreen College, and although I'm not going to follow St. Martin's. St. Martin's says on their website, it's highly unlikely that people, regular people in the mainstream would get this virus. That's what it says on their website. And so I don't think we can quite go with that one. So I'll go with Evergreen in South Puget Sound. And they're following the health department. So we'll know what to do. Or we will make our own decision too. But for now, I think we're okay. We're not in a crowded room, and we try to keep it ventilated. So, all right. Thank you very much, everyone. Beings are numberless, I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless, I vow to enter them. Buddha's ways unsurpassed, I vow to decommit. Thank you, everyone. My name is Eido.
Will.
Calvin.
Larry.
Amir. Dustin.